the 4th of July weekend, we were forced to leave due to this massive fire that's hitting southern Colorado right now. Right? We woke up on 4th of July trying to celebrate, and the smoke was so bad. It was filling our home, it was filling our yard, and the fire was moving towards us. All right, during that day, there was a lot of eastern wind that was blowing towards the west, and it really shifted the fire. There was a lot of activity towards the northwest section of the fire, and they actually expanded evacuations, mandatory, and warnings. And it was just too bad. We had to get out of there. All right, we have 3 small kids. The smoke was just becoming overwhelming and overbearing. Everyone was feeling sick and nauseous. If you've ever breathed in this heavy wildfire smoke, been really close to it, we're miles away. Right, we're like 5 to 10 miles away from the fire, and this fire has made runs of 6 miles overnight. All right, so we've been very concerned. It can move very quickly when the wind hits, and we've had all these erratic thunderstorms and wind moving in, and we had to leave. All right, we had to leave. We had to pack up our animals, we had to pack up our dogs and our chickens and get out of there. All right, we had to get our RV as packed as we can, and it's a crazy process when you have to leave suddenly, when you're kind of panicking to get everything out of there. It's a process. All right, there's tons of things that we forgot. We brought most of our important things, but there's just, you can only bring so much. The car can only carry so much. The truck can only pack so much in it. All right, so it's really a reality check, having to deal with this and having to leave suddenly like this.
I give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Ha Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone, which taught me the truth, taught Israel the truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, Wa Abba Babal. So as you heard that man say that he had to be evacuated from his home in southern Colorado because of the wildfires, and he had a reality check because when he had to get out, he couldn't take everything with him, which that man has a Edom, I believe he's an Edomite, just because the way he speaks about certain things. But he's a prepper, all right? He has like a homestead where he has chickens, and they plan on, as they say, bugging out or bugging in, right? But as you saw, the fire chased him out of his house, and it tells us not to trust in these earthly things, all right? Because we're going to be pushed out of our homes, because we're going to be persecuted for not taking the implantable microchip, the mark of the beast, when they make it mandatory worldwide. All right, they're going to persecute the prophets of Israel because we're not going to be deceived. All right, so it says in 2 Ezra 16, O my people, the Israelites, hear my word, make you ready to thy battle, and in those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth. All right, so a pilgrim, it says, is fundamentally a traveler or wayfarer, and more specifically, a person who journeys to a sacred or holy place, a holy place as an act of righteous devotion, which we're going to be taken back in a chariot, a so-called UFO, so you can understand, back to the Holy Land when Yahweh sends his son Yahweh Shai back to gather his hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, which been scattered throughout the world. Now, you got Israelites that even look like that so-called white man that was on the screen. All right, so like I said, he could possibly be an Israelite or an Edomite. I think he's an Edomite because of the things he talks about, and he's shown his hatred for so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians in his videos. All right. Now, being a pilgrim, as it says, a traveler. All right. So being ready to leave, right? Carrying little. You can't have a lot if you're traveling. Okay. So that's how we're supposed to be, because they're going to persecute us and throw us out of our houses because we do not accept the implantable microchip, the mark of the beast. It says in prophecy, 2nd Ezra 16, verse 70, for there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. Talking about the Israelites. They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but it says, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. So this is to come, all right? But if you got all kinds of stuff, all right, you're not going to want to leave it. And you're going to end up accepting that implantable microchip, all right, or lose your life trying to keep your stuff or gather your stuff, all right? Pretty much you're going to have to be like in 70 AD when the Roman Edomites persecuted the Israelites in Jerusalem. Yahushua prophesied about it, all right? And he told them to pretty much leave from the rooftop without running into your house to get anything. All right. It says in Matthew 24, verse 16, and it's red letter because the Messiah was prophesying at 70 AD to the Israelites in Jerusalem. And it happened. All right. It's history. But knowing the mystery of the future, you got to look into the history. It says, then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, because they ate their babies in those days because there was no food. The cities were sieged, right, by the Roman Edomites in 70 AD, and the Israelite people ended up eating their babies because there was no more food. There was a famine because of the siege. All right. So Yahushua was giving the Israelites warning just to take off, not to go back to your house to get anything. All right. And that's how it's going to be for us in these last days, because of the persecution of the saints. They're going to persecute us because of this truth, and they're going to make it mandatory that we have an implantable microchip, which we're going to refuse because we're not going to be deceived. We know that's the mark of the beast, which is an abomination for the Israelites to receive. Now, the Israelites are going to be protected in these last days, all right? His anointed are going to be protected. Some will actually lose their life for the testimony and the fulfillment of prophecy, but for the most part, the Israelites are going to be saved. It tells you in Revelation 7, verse 4, it says, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and we were sealed when we believed in the prophecies, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the sons of Israel, the elect, which are the prophets. Verse 9, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude of Israelites, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, which the Israelites been scattered throughout the world, and they look like all the other people, because we've been able to mingle our seed amongst the heathen. All right. But the bloodline goes back to the father's lineage. So you got Israelites that look like so-called Caucasians, all right, but their bloodline is Israel. But then you got Edomites that are so-called Caucasians, right, but they're dark-skinned, All right, so it's a bloodline thing, not so much a color thing. All right, now originally the Israelites were originally dark skinned. Really, the whole world was dark skinned. But Cain killed his brother Abel, and he was the first Edomite. Turned red, he lost his melanin as a curse for murdering his brother Abel, which pleased the Lord. So you got Israelites that look like the other nations, and you got the other nations that look like Israelites. All right. But these Israelites that are believing in Yahweh's word, which speaks of his son, Yahweh Shai, which comes through the mouth of the prophets as light, all right. It says, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our power, which sitteth upon the throne, and the Lamb, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai. All right. So the Israelites are going to be saved. All right. And we're going to be taken up into a chariot, a so-called UFO, and be changed. All right. That's the chamber where the Lord's going to hide us. That's what it says in Isaiah 40. And 1, comfort ye my people, the Israelites, saith your power, Yahweh, and we do this through the spirit of Yahweh Shai, the spirit of prophecy, the comforter. Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem, which is a people before a place, and cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned through Yahweh Shai. For she hath received of Yahweh's hand double for all her sins. So now, the whore, America, this bitter whore, is trying to persecute us because of the prophecy. So when we're saved and taken up, the Lord's going to destroy this whore, and the ones that survive the destruction that's going to shake the earth, because this whore is going to be turned into a lake of fire. Babylon the Great is going to fall like lightning, and you're going to have these elite in bunkers outside of America, and that's for the purpose of saving them to go into slavery. It's not the same salvation as an Israelite, which we're being preserved and given new bodies to rule forever. The other nations, their elites, are building bunkers to be preserved from the judgment of the great whore, which is going to shake the earth. America is going to lose World War III and be turned into a nuclear lake of fire. And the heathen that survive that destruction by being in those bunkers, they're going to go into chains. They're going to come out those bunkers and go into slavery under the Israelites. All right. So it says in Revelation 18:1, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen. Babylon the Great is America, and it's going to fall by nuclear destruction. It's going to lose World War III and be turned into a lake of fire, nuclear fire, and has become the habitation of devils and the hold of every foul spirit and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Desert creatures are going to dwell here when it cools down. No man will dwell here. No man will live here ever again. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, which they devour the Israelites, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. America is the #1 consuming country in the world. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, which this will be in Hebrew, and it's going to be calling us, the voice is going to be calling us into the chariot, the so-called UFO. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh sending Yahushai, hath remembered her iniquities through the prophets. All right, because we're pretty much revealing the son of perdition, the devil, the so-called white race, to telling you the truth about Yahushai, the son of Yahweh, which he's described in the scriptures as a so-called black man, as well as his father Yahweh, which is in Daniel 10 and Revelation 1. It says, our power hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she had, it says, reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. And the cup which she had filled to her double. For such, it says, how much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow and shall see no sorrow. And that's the pride of these Edomites. They don't believe nothing bad could happen to America. It says, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord Yahweh, our power, through Yahushai who judgeth her. Which he's going to send Yahushai to judge this whore, which is he's going to put it in the hearts of the other nations to shoot nuclear missiles on America. All right, it says in verse 15 of Obadiah, for the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen, all the other nations, because they're confederate against his people, the Israelites. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, the Israelites, so shall all the heathen drink continually. They're going to go into brutal slavery. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. The Edomites are going to be made extinct, and in the nuclear destruction of the great whore, the kingdom of Edom, which will shake the whole earth, it's going to destroy all these cities that are on the earth. So it's going to be as though they never been. So when we come back down and put the heathen in slavery, we're going to build up the kingdom of heaven on the backs of the slaves. So in the future, the heathen is going to be like they were never even in power. All right. It says, but upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions, which we're going to enforce the laws of Yahweh, and we're going to be given new bodies through Yahushai. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame. The Israelites, southern kingdom and northern kingdom, we're going to be ruling the world together as one kingdom, the kingdom of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. And the house of Esau, the so-called white race, the red devil, the Bible speaks of, the wicked that rule the world in wickedness, for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, which they're going to be made extinct. For Yahweh has spoken it, because they persecuted the Israelites relentlessly with no mercy. All right, they have blasphemed Yahweh and Yahushai and his holy tabernacle, so they will be made extinct. First their kingdom via nuclear missiles, and then them after 1,000 years of slavery. And saviors shall come up on Mount Zion, which are the Israelite elect, to judge the mount of Esau, and the kingdom shall be Yahweh's. Go to Revelation 14 and 1. And I looked, and lo, a lamb, Yahushai, which was sacrificed to deliver us from the wage of our sin, stood on the Mount Sion, and with him 144,000, which are the elect men of the nation of Israel, having his name, his father's name, and his name, Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai, written in their foreheads, meaning we got the tawa, exempt from judgment, and we have the desire for Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of the harpers. I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps, and they sung as it were a new song, because they don't know this is in the scriptures. Because Christianity is a goddamn lie. The Roman Catholic Church is a goddamn lie. All right. It says, and before the four beasts and the, read that again, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne. The throne is the chariot which Yahweh and his son Yahweh Shai, they ride thrones that are fit for judgment, which the so-called UFO, so you could understand, shoots fire out of the bottom of it, out of the mouth of it, and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. It says in verse 5, and in their mouth was found no guile, no deceit. We're telling you the truth. When they persecute us and throw us out of our homes, it's because we're telling you the truth. For they are without fault before the throne of Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai, which this is why Yahweh is going to send Yahushai to avenge us. Revelation 18 and 20, and I'm going to get it in the NLT. It says, rejoice over her fate, the predestination of the nuclear destruction of America, the great whore. O heaven it says, O heaven and people of our power, Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, and apostles and prophets, for at last Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai has judged her for your sakes. He's going to avenge us on her. It says in KJV, rejoice over her. So we rejoice in knowing that this hell that we are living in under the so-called white race, the red devil, the so-called white race is the Edomites. They're the red devil the Bible speaks of. We rejoice knowing in the prophecies that their kingdom will be destroyed and they will be enslaved under us and then be made extinct. I know I personally rejoice over this every day. Just like last night, I was thinking about it before I went to bed. I said, all I want to do is know that day when they're made extinct, because really that's going to be a holy day. All right, because there'll be no more wickedness on the earth at all. Even when we get in power and we put these devils in subjection, we'll still have to deal with them, being that we punish them for being wicked, even in our righteous kingdom. But when they go extinct, we will really, really rejoice, because there will be no more wickedness on the earth. The other nations, they'll go off and we'll punish them publicly. Excuse me. All right, so we'll have to punish them, the other nations, but no nation is as wicked as that so-called white race. They're the literal wicked of the earth that the Bible speaks of, the wicked race, the so-called white race, the red devil the Bible speaks of. So it says, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Yahweh, sending his son Yahushai, hath avenged you on her. So they're going to pay her back for what she's done to us. Remember, they enslaved us, they've murdered us, they robbed us, they've done all kinds of horrible things to us, and even lied to us and about us, all the way up to the Father, the Son, and even all his angels and his prophets. They set up false images, they set up false religions, and now they're going to try to condemn us, because we tell the truth. So Yahweh is going to send Yahushai, and he's going to avenge us. All right. So let me get this here. It says define avenge. Avenged, it says, is the past tense meaning it's going to happen. It's in the future, but it will be past tense after it happens. And past particle of the verb avenge, it means to inflict a punishment or seek retribution in return for an injury, wrong, or grievance, usually with the intention of righting a wrong on behalf of someone else. So Yahweh is going to send Yahweh Shai to avenge us, the Israelites, starting with the hopeful elect, on the wicked, the Edomites, and these other nations that are confederate with us, which was made rich by the costliness of America's delicacies. So we give all praise and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Ha Rakakwadash. Double honors unto our apostle elders, which rule great millstone well, and which taught me the truth, and shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, wa abba babam.